Hey there gamers, welcome back to the Board Game Co channel, and today we have a preview of Gheos and Real Rivals. Hey there gamers, it's Professor Meg here, and welcome back to the Board Game Co channel. Today we have a preview of Gheos as well as Real Rivals. Now, this is part of a current crowdfunding campaign by Play for Keeps, so you can check out the link down below for everything that they have planned. This is a sponsored preview, and this is a prototype copy in front of me, so all rules, components, and things like that are subject to change. But, as I said, this is part of a 4-game campaign, so we are going to be going over these two today, but there's also Mexico as well as the Bridges of Shangri-La, which you're able to check out, so be sure to find that link down below. Now, starting off with Gheos, this is going to be a game where everyone is playing as a god and you're trying to gain a favor with different followers of civilizations. So to do so, you're going to be creating archipelagos where you are placing out these different terrain tiles, and you're going to be placing them out to develop civilizations on them and gain followers from those civilizations. Now, players are also going to have 3 different scoring tokens, so they're going to be able to decide when they score for the different followers that they have throughout the game, but you want to sure to be do so before the game ends, because the game does have a certain clock where time will run out. So with that, let's take a look at Gheos. Now, currently in front of you, the game is set up for a 3-player game, so this is going to be the starting tile that everyone has access to, and then you can see there are 3 different players here. So those tokens that I mentioned are going to be these tokens here, and you're able to choose on a turn if you want to score or not. So you'll choose to spend these to score for yourself and gain some of these victory points over here, but we'll get into that in just a bit because we're going to take a look at what a turn is going to look like. So all players are going to have 2 tiles in their hand at all times. You are going to play one out, but you will draw one at the end of a turn, so you'll always have 2 to choose from. So we are going to take a look here, and we are going to be able to place out one of these 2 tiles. Now, this one here is going to be able to have a temple for us, and it's also going to provide a food as well as some scoring, but this one over here has scoring as well as one of the war symbols. Now, you can see that this one has land on all sides, so I think I'm going to have us place this one out because that is going to mean with the war symbol that the civilization we're going to choose is already going to have 1 strength for warring when that occurs. So we are going to place this out here, and when a player does this, you're going to then either found a civilization or gain a follower from a civilization. So we are going to choose to found a civilization because we are able to found one over here. So we're going to take this token here to say that there is a green civilization now living in this land here. So we'll place that out, and now that we have that, we are going to gain one of these as well because we were the one to place that. And then finally, we are going to draw a terrain tile for ourselves into our hand, and we're going to choose not to score quite yet. Now, when placing these tiles out, as long as you're sharing a border, you're able to place them, meaning that you have to place them touching like this, and you're not able to place them out, for example, something like that. So that's how you're going to be placing these tiles out. But another thing that players are able to do is cover tiles. So you're able to cover and replace a tile instead, and as long as it doesn't have a temple on it, that's a completely legal play. So once these civilizations are placed out, you're going to be able to place out and cover some of these tiles to perhaps break up the civilizations or cause them to come together and have a war between 2 different types of civilizations. So I'm going to fast forward us a little bit to show you what that would look like. Now, taking a look here, you can see that there's a green civilization as well as a red one over here. But they're going to be separated by this water here and this 1 tile. So for this player over here, they're able to play a tile like this, for example, to join those 2 different islands. So this is going to cause war to happen. So this would be placed out like this. And because we were the ones to initiate the war, we would actually lose a follower from our general supply. When it's placed, we immediately lose it before the war is resolved, but I am going to leave our follower here so that you can see what scoring is going to look like as well. And when you're doing so, you're going to calculate the red symbols on the tiles that are not part of that placement. So we would not count this one for either civilization, and if there were any on the tile underneath it, those would not count either. But as you can see over here, the green civilization does have a 1 red strength over here for warring, and the red one does not have anything. So the green civilization is going to win in this instance, and that's going to actually remove this from the map, as well as the followers over here for this player, because that civilization no longer exists. Now this is very strategic because for this player, they're also placing out another red symbol, meaning that the green civilization is also becoming stronger with this placement as well. Now, when placing out a civilization, the spots where you're placing them do have to have this symbol here, which is going to be able to feed that civilization, and there has to be at least 2 tiles, or an island that has 3 tiles but still at least a feeding source. So 2 that have an open way, you can't have 2 that are closed off into 1 island. So there are a few restrictions, and in that instance, that's when players are going to choose to gain followers of existing civilizations instead, which you can see that this player did over here. Now, all players are going to have 3 scoring tokens, and they're going to spend these to score when they think it's most advantageous. So for each of your followers, you're going to score for a particular symbol that's out on the map, which I'll show you in just a moment, but you're going to spend your token to score for the amount of that symbol for each follower that you have and gain some victory points for yourself. Now, the victory points are going to be hidden, so once you gain them, you're going to place them face down, meaning that players are going to be gaining victory points throughout the game, and you're not going to know exactly how many other players have. But the end game is going to be triggered when these epoch tiles come out. So again, I'll show you exactly what these are going to look like, but there are 6 of them throughout this entire deck of tiles, and once all of them come out, the game is going to immediately end. So players are going to be sure to spend these scoring tokens when they think it's worth it, but be sure to do it before the end of the game runs out, because if you don't spend them, those are victory points you're not going to be able to get for yourself. Now, for example here, if we were to spend one of these tokens now for ourselves, for the green civilization, we have 2 followers, and there are 2 of this symbol here in their civilization. So each of these would score 2 victory points for us, meaning a total of 4 victory points that we would be able to stash over here for ourselves. Now, these are going to be these epic tiles that are going to come out, and as you can see, they are forming an image. So once the other 2 tiles come out, that would be when endgame is triggered. So players are going to draw a new tile at the end of each of their turns, and if it is one of these, they'll just play it out and then draw a new tile for themselves, so they still have 2 options to choose from, but that is how the endgame is going to be triggered. Gheos is going to be a very strategic game where players are not only building out the map, but they're building it up as well, where you're going to be taking these different islands and either breaking them up or joining them together, depending on what you want to do with these different civilizations. So you're going to want to plan out which of these followers you are trying to gain, because you do have to spend them when you cause things like war or migration as well. So you want to keep an eye on that, but you're going to have these different scoring tokens that you want to be sure to spend before the game ends, but you want to spend them when you're going to get the most victory points possible. So it's constantly going to be a push and pull of what is placed where and what might come out when you draw these different tiles into your hand. So this has been a preview of Gheos, and with that, let's move on to Real Rivals. Real Rivals is going to be a game all about placing out your different anglers and then using that to score points for yourself for the different ponds and the fish that are in them, as well as the land that you're able to see with your binoculars, because there are going to be birds on that land as well. So you're going to be placing out these different anglers and then gaining tokens for them, such as barriers and binoculars, and then using that to increase your scoring. So this is going to be a game that lasts over the course of 7 rounds, and you're going to score at the end of round 4 as well as 7. So you're going to be setting yourself up for these 2 different scoring rounds, and at the end of the day, hopefully you are able to catch as much wildlife as possible. Now, currently the game in front of you is set up for 3 players, where all players are going to have anglers that all have different values on them, numbered 1 through 10. So you have a deck of 10 of them, and you're going to have 4 in your hand. You'll draw to replace them after you play them out, but these anglers are what you're going to be selecting each turn for initiative order. So starting with the first player, we're going to choose one of our anglers to place out. So we will choose this one here, and this is the planning phase. So now this player over here is not going to be able to choose the same number. So if they did have a 5, they would not be able to choose to place that out, but they are going to choose to place this 7 here instead. So they're going to choose that, and then moving on to this player, we're going to have them choose a lower number instead, having that be what they're going to use. So those are going to be the 3 anglers chosen during the planning phase, and then we will go on to the deployment phase. So during deployment, whoever played the highest value angler is going to go first, and they're going to do 2 different things. They're going to place out a landscape tile, and they're also going to place out their angler tile. So there are instances where you might not place out your angler tile. I'll get to that in just a bit. But normally you're going to be placing out both things. So your anglers are going to be facing out in the water, trying to score for the ponds as well as the fish within them. And then they're also going to want to have binoculars with land next to them that have birds on them. So with this player being the one that is going first, I am going to have them face inside of this pond here, where they're going to hope that this pond is going to grow and be able to have more fish in it. So we'll have them place this over here, and then additionally they're going to place one of these landscape tiles. So I'm going to have them choose this one over here, where they're going to place this over here, and that's going to start growing this pond over here. So we'll have all of that happen, and then it will go on to the next player, which is going to be the 5 over here. So this player is going to try to jump in on this big pond bandwagon. So they're going to place out their angler over here facing in toward the water, and they're also going to place out a landscape tile. Now this is going to help both players, but there are ways for anglers to be discarded from the board. So for now, this player is going to choose to place a fish over here into this pond growing this area here. But they're also able to place a second tile because of this symbol here. So if this symbol is on the angler that you are placing out, you can place a second landscape tile. So we are going to choose to have them place a bird over here, which is going to help them with scoring in that sense. Now, during this deployment phase on your turn is when you'll place out your binoculars as well as your barriers as well. So our first player, we did not have do that, but for the purple player, we are going to have them place out a barrier. So for your anglers, they are going to be flooded if they ever have water on one of the outer edges. So this angler over here is in a pretty dangerous situation, but if they had placed a barrier on one of the sides, they would have just been able to be flooded on the other side. But for this one over here, the purple player is able to place a barrier here, meaning that even if water was placed on this side, they would be protected by their barrier. Now, additionally, you can also place out binoculars, and anywhere that you are facing, you're going to be able to score for the birds in those areas during these scoring rounds. So for this player, that may be a good thing to place out, but again, you can see why the red player didn't choose to place any tokens out. Now, finally, for the yellow player, they do have this 2 here. They could place their angler out, but another thing that they're able to do is discard this tile to draw both a barrier and a binoculars. So you are able to do that. It is very rare to do this more than once per game, but where this is early game and this is a pretty low number, they may choose to do that. So they could discard this to gain both of these instead, and then they would still place out a landscape tile. Now, as I said, you can flood the different anglers, so they may choose to do something like this placed up against here, which will then flood the red player. Now, next up would be the upkeep phase, and that's when this would be discarded on the red player. So they would have this discarded, and they would choose to gain either a binoculars or a barrier to their supply. So they would still be able to gain something for that, but they would have their angler removed from the board. Then after that, the first player marker is going to go to whoever was lowest. So for the yellow player, they're not going to have that first player marker, meaning that they're going to be able to choose which of their anglers they want to place out first the next round. Finally, the landscape tiles would be filled, so you always have the number of players plus 2. There's a whole bunch of fish here now, so all of those would be placed out. And then the last thing is that players would draw another angler into their hand. So all players would draw up so that they have the option of the 4 anglers. And then, as you can see, placed in the stack here is going to be a scoring tile. So once you hit those scoring tiles, you are going to score both at the end of round 4 as well as the end of round 7, which is the end of the game. Now, players are going to score for their anglers, and it's going to be whoever has the highest combined strength of anglers. So for the purple player, they currently have the 5 and they are uncontested. They would be able to boost to their own strength if that water wasn't there and this were here. So you are able to contribute to your own strength, but whoever has the highest is going to score a point for each tile that is part of that pond, as well as each fish. So for example, the purple player here would currently be scoring 1, 2, 3, 4 for the ponds, as well as 1 for the fish, for a total of 5. Now, if there were a second place person within this, for example, if there was someone with a 4 pointing into this pond, then they would score it just for the pond spaces, but not the fish. So the bonus for having the highest strength is the fish as well as the ponds, and that's what all players are going to be working toward. Now, finally, for the binoculars, you're going to score for the binoculars that are facing in toward the birds. So here, where this angler is currently pointing these binoculars here toward this bird, that's going to be 2 victory points, because you'll get 2 for each bird within that area. But if we had, we'll have to dig for a bird here, but if we had another bird within this land, they would score for that bird as well, so this one would be 4 points instead. In Real Rivals, players are going to be continuously growing this shared map that everyone is trying to score victory points off of. So you're going to have these different ponds, and you're going to have fish in them, and you're also going to have the different areas of land with a whole bunch of birds. And hopefully your anglers are able to enjoy both for the different things that they're able to provide. So you are going to want the highest strength anglers and be able to strategically plan them out for the different ponds, and you're going to want to be sure that you have binoculars pointing toward the different birds, and that's going to be very helpful because that means that they're going to be up against land, meaning that they're a bit safer from water as well. So one of the other things that's very interesting about the game is that everyone has the same anglers 1 through 10, but you're going to be drawing them from this deck, and no one can play the same number twice in the same round. So as these different anglers start coming out, you're going to have an idea of what players have, and if they've already placed out their higher value anglers, you're going to be able to set up situations that hopefully you're able to take advantage of, but they're not quite able to gain access to. So this has been a preview of Real Rivals as well as Gheos. You can check out the link down below for everything that Play to Keeps has planned, as well as for Mexica and Bridges of Shangri-La. Thank you all for watching the Board Game Co channel. I've been Professor Meg, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye!